Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be talking about a company that we've mentioned on the channel before. The company's name is TLLT Holdings. They're a small cap operator in the MJ space, but they're really focused in the United States. Now I personally am a huge advocate of this company. I hold over 20,000 shares of TLLT, and they just came out with massive Q2 numbers and some huge news that I think is really going to change the game for this company moving forward. Now, before we get into it here, you guys, please take a second to smash the like button. It's free to do, and it really helps me out, especially with some of these smaller cap companies that don't have a huge investor following. In addition to that, if you're not already subscribed to the channel itself, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below what you think of TLLT, if you're currently holding shares, and what you personally think about their growth prospects moving forward. Now without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite stocks. The company name is TLLT Holdings. They trade under the ticker symbol TILT, and they just upgraded on the Canadian side of things to the NEO exchange. Now we're going to look at their listing on the US exchange as well in a second here, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things before we get into that. Now TLLT is a small cap player in the MJ space, so it fits the channel niche perfectly. However, they operate almost exclusively in the US market. Now, as the name implies, TLLT Holdings, it's a holdings company, so they've got a number of different subsidiaries that are involved in all different aspects of the MJ value chain. We're going to talk about each one of these components in more detail later in the presentation, but this is a company that for the life of me, I cannot figure out why more people aren't interested in this name and why the share price has been hovering in this 50-60 cent range for so long. Now we've talked about TLLT on the channel before. I did a deep dive analysis a couple of months ago on their business model. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about some recent news, including Q2 numbers, a massive partnership that TLLT just signed in the US in New York State, and then we're going to do a deep dive analysis or refresher on their business model and the different subsidiaries that make up TLLT Holdings. So this video hopefully will provide a ton of value for you guys. And I promise you, if you watch through to the end here, you guys, you're going to start to understand why I'm so bullish on TLLT Holdings and why I believe this is such a massively undervalued sleeper type of stock. Now, in terms of yesterday's close, this is as of August 25th, so Wednesday. TLLT was down 2 cents a share, which equates to just about 3.2%. And you can see they closed out at 61 cents. Now for full disclosure, you guys, in terms of shares held, this is my largest position. I currently have 24,000 shares of TLLT Holdings. However, by market value, this is actually my second largest position behind the Valence company. So I'm in at an average cost of 62 cents Canadian, so I'm actually down 1 cent on my position. But that being said, I'm still holding about $15,000 Canadian worth of TLLT. So this is definitely a sizable position for me. And to be honest, I'm seriously considering adding more shares this week based on the news that just came out. Now, if you look at a 6-month chart here, you can see they've been trading pretty flat. Back in March, they were at 64 cents. Fast forward to August, they're still in the 60-cent range. And if we zoom out to a 1 year, you can see they were struggling at the start of the year. They were in the 40s, even the 30-cent range. I was actually able to pick up 3,000 additional shares right at 30 cents. So this really did help me bring that average share cost down. However, this has been a little bit frustrating of a hold because it's been trading sideways for so long. So I've been in TLLT now for a couple of years. And if you look at a 5-year chart here, you guys, you can see that they've really been trading flat for the last couple of years since September of 2019. And that's why I'm saying I really don't understand why people aren't picking up on this story and getting more excited about this company. Now, to play devil's advocate, a couple of years ago, they did have some massive write-downs. They had some leadership team challenges. The company business model itself is a little bit difficult to understand. There's a lot of different components within the holding company, and the company name and ticker really don't speak to exactly what it is that they do in the MJ space. So I think realistically, it's just people are unaware of this company and it doesn't come up on a lot of people's watch lists. However, for me as a long-term investor in TLLT Holdings, I'm taking advantage of this and I'm loading up as many shares as possible so that when the general public does catch on, I'm already locked and loaded and ready to go. Now, before we get into the Q2 numbers and some of the recent news, I did want to bring up the OTC listing. So this is in US dollars. There's two reasons I wanted to bring this up. Number one is to show you guys the ticker symbol. So on this side of things, Tilt trades under the ticker TLLTF. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is the market cap here, you guys. So Tilt, as mentioned, operates primarily in the United States. All of the numbers in their Q2 earnings are in US dollars. So although I hold Tilt in Canadian funds, I wanted to show you guys this chart and this market cap in US dollars, just so it's all relative throughout the presentation. So you can see here, market cap on this one is about $165 million. So under $200 million US market cap on Tilt Holdings. And once we start to look at the numbers on the next slide here, you guys, you're going to see exactly why I'm so excited about this company. Now, as a quick refresher here, you guys, for those of you maybe who missed my initial deep dive on Tilt, again, feel free to check that out. But I did want to give a quick summary of what the company does before we start talking the numbers here. So Tilt helps other MJ businesses build their brands through a portfolio of companies or subsidiaries providing technology, hardware, cultivation, and production. Tilt services brands and MJ retailers across 36 different states in the US, so very well diversified in terms of their geographic reach in the states, as well as Canada, Israel, Mexico, South America, and the European Union. So they do have some international exposure as well, but as mentioned, the bread and butter of this company is really in the United States. Tilt's core businesses include Jupiter Research, which is a wholly owned subsidiary and a leader in the vaporization segment, which is really focused on the hardware design itself, research, development, and manufacturing. And Jupiter really is the backbone of this company. They are trying to diversify their revenues and build out some of their other verticals or income streams, but Jupiter really is what's allowed Tilt to get where they are today. Now, they also have MJ operations, so plant touching assets. Commonwealth Alternative Care is based in Massachusetts, and then they've got a very similar structure under the name Standard Farms in Pennsylvania, and now a Standard Farms, Ohio. Now, we're going to talk about some recent news related to Standard Farms, New York, and also their Santa Vertes asset, but these three components, Jupiter, Commonwealth, and Standard Farms, at this point in time, really make up the Tilt portfolio. So now for the Q2 numbers, you guys. So we talked about their market cap. Keep that number in mind, $165 million, under $200 million market cap. So Q2 revenue was up 33% year over year to nearly $49 million. Now, in terms of adjusted EBITDA, it was up 2.7 times to $6.5 million. Again, this is US dollars. And Tilt has reiterated their fiscal 2021 guidance for revenue between $205 to $210 million with adjusted EBITDA in the range of 30 to 32 million. So this company, you guys, is currently trading below their expected sales for the current fiscal year, which absolutely blows my mind, especially in a high growth industry like the MJ space, specifically in the US, where federal legalization is just around the corner. I honestly feel like this company should be trading closer to the 600, 800, even $1 billion type of market cap compared to a lot of the others that we really have looked at on this channel in the MJ space. So in my personal opinion, you guys, Tilt is trading at a significant discount to its peers and in relation to where it should be based on the type of numbers that they're putting up quarter over quarter. Now this quote here is from the CEO of Tilt, a guy named Gary Santo, who we're going to look at in a second. But this really talks about the overall strength they saw in the quarter and their focus to really start diversifying those revenue streams and driving sales in other parts of the business besides Jupiter. So we generated another quarter of record revenue results by continuing to execute on our business-to-business strategy and driving synergies across all our different business segments. Our ability to cross-sell and deepen relationships with our 700 plus customer base. So that number is important here, you guys. It's not like Tilt has one or two big customers with a really concentrated customer base. They have hundreds of different customers across the US and internationally. And that's really starting to lead to material gains in the numbers. So they're really trying to reach out to their existing customer base, cross-sell, upsell, and really get them more integrated in the overall ecosystem or suite of products and services that Tilt can offer. Now, in addition to this earnings release, they did announce a huge partnership with the Shinnecock Indian Nation in New York. We're going to look at that next up here and really handle that as its own piece of news. But that's a major game changer, in my opinion, for Tilt. And again, we're going to look at that in detail in a second here. Now, if we start to break down the revenue, you can see overall revenue, $48.5 million. That's a 33% increase, which is phenomenal. What I was super excited to see myself is the actual MJ revenue increased 31% and represented $10 million. So almost 20% of the overall revenue in Q2 was generated from MJ-based products. Now you can see Jupiter, the inhalation and accessory revenue, still represents the lion's share here, you guys. That one grew by 34%, so it actually outpaced the growth on the MJ side and represented $38.5 million. So the company really is still centered around that Jupiter asset. However, they are growing their revenue in other areas or other divisions very nicely to complement that key business unit. Now, gross profit increased 25%, represents $13.1 million or 27% of overall revenue. So really healthy gross margin percentage and pretty much in line with what we've seen in the past. Now, they do mention gross margins were impacted by supply chain and freight costs. This is something we're seeing in virtually every industry across the world right now as a result of pandemic related global supply chain issues. Adjusted EBITDA was up 2.7%, came in at $6.5 million compared to 2.4 previously. And as a percentage of revenue, adjusted EBITDA nearly doubled from 6.7% to 13.5%. So that's great to see and definitely moving in the right direction. And then the final point here, you guys, cash and cash equivalents actually increased by 30%, so they're generating cash flow to the business, and they closed out the quarter with just under $10 million US compared to only 7.4 at the end of December 2020. So again, if you compare this to market cap, you guys, just about 6% of their company's value is actually sitting in cash. Now, in addition to the financial highlights, there's a couple of operational highlights I think are really important here as well. So Tilt's inhalation and accessory business, so really Jupiter, generated record monthly sales in April. We've seen those purchase orders and overall volume continually increase month after month over the last couple of years. They generated record quarterly flower sales in Pennsylvania, so this is from their plant touching assets, or the Standard Farms division. They launched an exclusive partnership with Old Pal to bring certain select products to Massachusetts, so this is really through their white labeling program. They expanded their partnership with Aero Brands, again bringing select products to market, but this time in Pennsylvania. They secured approval for adult use MJ sales at their Brockton dispensary location, and they appointed Gary Santo to CEO. So formerly, a guy by the name of Mark Scatterday was CEO of this company. They've now swapped leadership and Gary's taken the helm. And then the final point here, you guys, and this is exactly what we're going to talk about next, but they've announced this historic partnership with the Shinnecock Indian Nation to enter the New York MJ market. And this is really what I'm so excited about. The Q2 numbers were phenomenal, but honestly, they've been putting up phenomenal numbers for quite some time now. I think this partnership is really going to be the catalyst that propels Tilt to the next level. Number one, because of the facility that they're going to put together. Secondly, the structure of the deal that they were able to negotiate. And third, it's going to get investor attention and really start to make some headlines or generate media buzz around this company. So this is the actual article here. You can see Tilt announces historic partnership with the Shinnecock Indian Nation of New York to develop vertically integrated MJ operations. So the goal of this partnership, you guys, here is really to build an MJ cultivation, processing, dispensary, and consumption lounge on Long Island by leveraging the strengths or resources of both of the parties involved. And that's exactly what they explain in this paragraph here. So through a joint venture with the nation's MJ project development firm called Connor Green, Tilt will finance, build, and provide management services for a vertically integrated MJ operation of the Shinnecock Nation's wholly owned MJ business, Little Beach Harvest. So in terms of the details behind the deal here, Tilt has purchased 100% of the Class A shares of what they call Standard Farms New York. So building out that Standard Farms banner into another state. And in order to be a part of that, Tilt had to pay approximately $700,000 in cash with the potential of up to $2.65 million to be paid out in additional shares based on performance milestones, which include the commencement of the first retail and wholesale activity. So through this agreement, or joint venture between Little Beach Harvest and Tilt, Tilt is going to provide their management services, which is going to include the development of the facility, the planning, the design, and the funding of up to $18 million. So they're going to actually take the capital hit for this project and finance the build of this operation. Now, in return, that debt is going to be repaid to Tilt with 9% interest, and it's secured by the assets of the project. So a very safe loan for Tilt because they've got that collateral and they've got that repayment plan. Now that 18 million is going to be used to build a couple of things here on site. So one, a 60,000 square foot cultivation, processing, extraction, and packing facility. So an end-to-end state-of-the-art production location. They're also going to build a 2-story dispensary with a drive-through window so people can actually go and collect MJ without getting out of their car, and an adjacent wellness or consumption lounge. So hopefully you guys are starting to see now why I'm so excited about this news. This is a massive groundbreaking milestone for Tilt. They're going to be the first people actually serving the adult use recreational market in Long Beach. They've got a drive-through dispensary, which I've not heard of any other company doing. And they've got a consumption lounge on site, which is located just minutes from the Southampton Business District, Cooper's Beach, and the Shinnecock Hills Golf and Country Club. So awesome location and really a first of its kind in the state of New York. Now on top of all this other good news, Standard Farms New York is going to receive 11.25% of all gross revenue at this location, plus 18.75% of all free cash flows from MJ operations during that initial 9-year term. And at the end of the 9 years, management's got the option to extend for up to an additional 10-year period. So as I was reading through the forum boards about this news, one guy put it really nicely. They basically made an $18 million loan. They're building a world-class, state-of-the-art facility in an untapped market, and then they're receiving cash flow from that operation for the next 19 years. It's a win-win across the board, you guys, regardless of how you look at this one. So now that we've talked about the impressive Q2 numbers and the big news out of Tilt Holdings, I wanted to switch gears a little bit here and talk about the leadership team and the business model in a little bit more detail. So Gary Santo, as we saw, is the new CEO of this company. He's got over 25 years experience leading teams in industries ranging from consumer credit to financial services, gaming, technology, higher education, and specialty pharma. So for me specifically, the specialty pharma, the gaming, and the financial services are directly transferable to the MJ industry. He's got an investor relations charter certification from the National Investor Relation Institute, and he has a degree in political science from Boston University. So very well educated and great track record in a variety of industries, and he's really surrounded himself by a rock star group of senior leaders at this company. So Brad Hosch, who's the CFO, has over 20 years experience in finance and accounting with a number of high growth technology businesses. Dana Arvidsson, so the COO of this company, has over 20 years experience again in healthcare and financial services. And then Marshall Horowitz, who's the general counsel or the legal representation of this company, which again is crucially important in a highly regulated industry such as MJ in the United States, has 25 years experience with corporate law for domestic and international law firms. So this is something we don't talk about a ton in my videos, but honestly, you guys, with these small cap or micro cap type of companies, you really are investing in the leadership team and the story or the vision of the group of leaders. And I personally have been really impressed with what these guys have been able to deliver over the last couple of quarters. So now we're going to jump over to the Tilt Holdings website. We're going to talk about the 4 different divisions at this company. Not in a lot of detail, but I did want to touch on it just for those of you who maybe haven't watched that deep dive analysis that I put out a couple of months ago. So again, really 4 different divisions here. We've got Jupiter, which is front and center, Standard Farms, which we just saw has now expanded to New York State as well, Commonwealth Alternative Care, and then Santa Vertes, which is their Canadian asset. Not a lot of action here, but we will touch on it towards the end of the video. So Jupiter, as we saw, represents about 75 to 80% of overall revenue for Tilt. So this is the Jupiter website here, and you can see that they were acquired by Tilt back in January of 2019 as part of Tilt's plan to build out their consumer devices and packaged goods division. Now Tilt itself has only been around since 2018, so this was a major acquisition early in the company's lifespan. Now, in terms of what Jupiter actually does, they're a leading provider of performance-driven wholesale vaporizer cartridges, power supplies, all-in-one or disposable vapes, and a variety of other accessories or paraphernalia. As the MJ industry evolves, underperforming, unreliable products continuously flood the market. Jupiter has really set out to take the top spot in the vaporization space through high quality standards, high reliability, and safety. They're ISO certified, they're headquartered in the US, and they've partnered with over 700 brands across the globe to bring their products to market. And one of the main things that really sets Jupiter apart from some of the competitors is their C-cell technology, which was actually developed in part by Mark Scatterday, so the former CEO of Tilt. And C-cell really focuses on the way in which the vaporizers heat up the product that the user is consuming. So next up is Standard Farms. You can see they were one of the first medical MJ growers in the state of Pennsylvania. They've specialized in cultivation and extraction of organic and natural MJ products that serve the medical market in both Pennsylvania and Ohio. And they actually offer a number of in-house products or SKUs, which include flower, vape cartridges, tinctures, capsules, and a variety of other products that we're going to look at in a second. So the key here, you guys, is Standard Farms up until this point in time has really been focused on the medical market. Now with their entrance into New York State, they're starting to shift to focus on the adult use recreational market. And I think that really is going to be where the big growth in the US comes over the next couple of years. So it's great to see that Tilt and Standard Farms has now turned that corner, and they're addressing both the medical and adult use customer base in the US. So this is a look inside one of the Standard Farms cultivation facilities. You can see extremely large scale, you guys, purpose built with cutting edge technology. If you scroll down, you can see some of the numbers here. So Standard Farms products are available in 95% of all Pennsylvania's dispensaries. They've shipped over 850,000 medical MJ products since 2017, and they've got over 40 different product offerings or SKUs currently in market. And these are available in both Pennsylvania and Ohio. And these are really going to be some of the first products available at their New York location as well. And if we jump over to the Standard Farms website, I wanted to give you guys a look and feel for their packaging and products. So as you scroll through, you can see everything from tinctures, vape pods, flower, syringes, terpene applicators, and tinctures. So they really do touch a lot of different product categories within the MJ space, including a number of different flavor profiles and package sizing. So Commonwealth Alternative Care, this is really their Massachusetts-based operation, similar to the Standard Farms division in the sense that they grow the product in-house, they take care of all the packaging and formulation, they serve the medical market. However, Commonwealth Alternative Care takes it a step further, and they're really focused on end-to-end service for their customers or patients. So a good example of that is their recently launched at-home delivery service. So patients at Commonwealth Alternative Care can now go on to their online menu, they can place their orders, and they're going to get free delivery on all orders over $200. So I thought it was cool that on one end of things, in New York, they're opening up a drive-through window, and on the other end of the spectrum, they're doing at-home delivery. And it really speaks to how Tilt is trying to serve all different segments or types of consumers within the MJ ecosystem. And then finally, we have the Santa Vertes Therapeutics division. This is actually located in Powell River, BC, so here in Canada. And this site is really meant to be their initial processing facility for operations here in Canada. Now at this point in time, Tilt really hasn't done a lot with this location or this division, but it's sitting on the back burner and it's ready to go if and when they need it. So to wrap things up here, you guys, I wanted to provide a couple more high-level numbers about Tilt Holdings. So on the Jupiter side of things, available in 36 states and 15 countries across the world. They've got nearly 1,200 brands that they're supporting holistically across the planet, and they're averaging just under 5,100 units being sold every single hour. So it's no wonder why Jupiter is really such an important piece of Tilt Holdings' overall revenue generation or revenue profile. Now on the Standard Farms side of things, we looked at some of these stats on the last slide. They have changed slightly. So we're now up to 95% of Pennsylvania dispensaries. They've now shipped 1.1 million medical MJ products, and we saw over 40 different products or SKUs available, which I personally expect to grow over the next couple of quarters. Now in terms of Commonwealth, they operate a 56,000 square foot cultivation and processing facility, so basically on par with what Tilt is planning to build at their New York facility or location as well. They've processed over 80,000 total transactions, and they currently have 8,200 Commonwealth Alternative Care patients within their network. So whether we're talking Jupiter, Standard Farms, or Commonwealth here, you guys, each one of these subsidiaries or divisions within Tilt Holdings is a formidable company on its own, but put together, I think this is really an MJ giant in the making. Now, as you guys know, I'm extremely bullish on the MJ industry overall, specifically in the United States. So for me, Tilt offers perfect exposure to that market. They've got a variety of different assets that are integrated within the MJ industry, and they've now got this massive agreement with the Shinnecock Nation to really make a splash in the adult use recreational market as well. On top of all that, their share price and market cap is trading at a significant discount to any of the other companies that I've looked at in this industry, whether we're talking about here in Canada or in the US, and they're continuing to put up record numbers quarter over quarter. So for me personally, Tilt Holdings is a buy across the board. I'm going to be continuing to add as many shares as possible, and I think this could easily be a $4 to $5 share company within the next couple of years. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As always, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think of Tilt Holdings, if you're currently holding shares, and what you thought about their Q2 numbers and this massive Shinnecock Nation news development. If you're not already subscribed to the channel itself, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And if you're still watching at this point in time, make sure you smash the like button, you guys. It really does help me out in a huge way. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.